Ignoring the trembling of my own body, I pulled out my mobile phone from my pocket as Mia approached me. I tried to reassure her, saying, "It's going to be okay." But Carly responded, "Mom, we don't need to call an ambulance." The shock of her words hit me like a wave. My name is Katie. I'm 34 years old and work part-time at a call center in the mornings. I met my husband Steve at a high school reunion. By chance, we reconnected, and as we talked, we realized how compatible we were. We began dating soon after, got married 3 years later, and now have a daughter named Mia, who is in the first grade. Since Mia's birth, our living expenses have increased. Driven by a strong desire to support our family, Steve has taken on long overtime hours. Even when he comes home late, I'm deeply grateful for his dedication to us. His work as a pharmacist often means he's home early when I'm sick. He knows all about the medicine and would say, "Tell me where it hurts, and I'll prepare the right remedy for you." He would even give me massages. Steve's support has been a constant. When I was down with a cold, Maya would look worried and say, "Mom, I hope you get better soon." Wanting to recover for her sake, I focused on my treatment. Seeing my pained expression, Maya once asked Steve, "Daddy, can you give Mom the usual magic medicine?" Steve understood and handed me some herbal and cold medicines. At home, we called these magic medicine. Even Mia, who usually disliked medicine, would muster the courage to take it. I'd often felt better the next day, thanks to this magic. "I'll take the magic medicine and get better for Mia," I said, taking the bitter pill. By the next morning, I felt entirely rejuvenated. "Thanks to Mia, I'm all better now," I told her. No, it's thanks to the magic medicine," she replied with a bright smile before heading off to school. "You seem to be feeling much better. I'll head to work now." "Rest up today," Steve said before leaving. Feeling grateful for their concern, I decided to make a lavish dinner that night, hoping it might be mistaken for a special occasion. I began preparing the ingredients. When Maya returned from school around 3, she was ecstatic. My friends and I were talking about the delicious smell in the air. "And it's your cooking, Mom. I can't wait for dinner," she said excitedly and quickly finished her homework. Seeing her happy face made me feel that the extra effort I put into cooking was worth it. As evening approached, I set the table, thinking Steve would be home soon. Maya helped by lining up the drinking glasses. Just then, my cell phone rang. It was Steve. His voice sounded rushed. "I was planning to come home early today, but a coworker has a serious personal issue. I want to treat him to dinner and listen to him, so don't worry about dinner for me tonight." "I'm really sorry," he said quickly before hanging up. I was left wondering if it was truly that urgent. I called out to Mia. "Daddy says he has an important talk with someone from work tonight, so he won't be able to eat dinner with us. It's a pity, but let's just enjoy our meal, just the two of us." Upon hearing this, Maya's face fell. "Daddy's not eating even though you worked so hard to make dinner," she said, trying to hide her sadness. Seeing her disappointment made me genuinely upset, but her understanding helped me cope. "As long as you eat it, Mia, I'm happy. Thank you for being so understanding," I said. "Okay, let's enjoy dinner together then," Maya agreed. We had our meal, washed the dishes, and savored dessert. We spent the evening waiting for Steve, but no matter how long we waited, he didn't come home. I wondered where Daddy was. I had hoped he'd be back for dessert. "I'm worried too, but it's getting late," I said to Mia. "Let's head to bed." Despite our concerns, Steve didn't return that night, and we went to bed. He didn't come home until around 5 o'clock the next morning. I heard the front door open as I was preparing breakfast and packing lunch boxes. I went to the entrance to find Steve there, looking tired. "I'm so sorry," he said immediately. "I missed the last train and had to wait for the first one in the morning. I'm really sorry for not coming home." Seeing how significant the issue with his coworker was, I didn't feel like blaming him. "Why don't you take a shower first? By the time you're out, breakfast should be ready," I suggested. "Thanks, I'll do that," Steve replied. A little later, Maya woke up and the three of us had breakfast together. Maya eagerly told Steve about the meal from last night. "Daddy, why didn't you come home? Mom made a really delicious dinner." "I'm sorry, Mia," Steve said. "I promise I'll be home early today." With that promise, we went our separate ways for the day. After work, I went to the grocery store. I had a simple menu in mind, planning to make an omelette, Maya's favorite. While shopping, I ran into the mother of one of Maya's friends. "Oh, Maya's mom. It's been a while. How have you been?" she asked. I've been fine, though I've been feeling a bit under the weather lately. Maybe it's my age, I replied. As we chatted, she made an unexpected suggestion. How about inviting Maya over to our house for a sleepover? Don't you think you could use a little time to relax too? Naomi would be thrilled if Maya stayed over. That sounds wonderful. I'm sure Maya would love it. Thank you for the offer, I said. We arranged a date for the sleepover and went our separate ways. When Maya came home in the evening, I shared the news with her. I spoke with Naomi's mom today, and she invited you for a sleepover. Maya's eyes widened with excitement. Really? Can we have a sleepover? Yes, but remember to behave and don't get too excited. They want you to stay over on Saturday. Maya's face lit up with a broad smile, and she immediately began preparing her things. I was relieved that Naomi's mom had suggested the sleepover, and I felt deeply grateful for her kindness. That evening, as promised, Steve came home early. Maya enthusiastically greeted him. Guess what, Dad? I'm going to have a sleepover at Naomi's house this Saturday. Maya shared the news, bouncing around with excitement. I explained to Steve that Naomi's mom had made the offer out of consideration for us. Steve responded, then maybe I'll head out on Saturday. You should take advantage of the free time, enjoy lunch or go shopping, whatever you like. I'll pick Mia up on Sunday. Really? Thank you so much, I said, grateful for his thoughtful suggestion. After dinner, Steve pulled an envelope from his bag. What's that? Maya asked curiously. Steve smiled and said, curious, aren't you? He opened the envelope to reveal a small bag and handed it to me. This is for you. I've noticed you haven't been feeling well lately, so I found some special food that's said to have magical properties. Maya's face lit up. Mom gets sick a lot, but with this she'll get better, right? I felt a mix of slight guilt and deep gratitude. Thank you, Steve. You went out of your way to buy this. It must have been expensive. Your well-being is the top priority, Steve said with a gentle smile. If you take them daily, they will definitely help. He then apologized. I have to admit, from tomorrow until Friday, work's going to be very busy, and I might come home late. Steve's earnest apology made Maya look a bit upset. I was disappointed as well, but I understood he was doing his best for us. I held back my feelings and comforted Mia. Dad is working hard for us. How about we go to the amusement park next time he has a day off? Maya seemed to understand, and Steve gave me a regretful nod. As it was time for bed, I opened the bag Steve had given me. Inside was something I had never seen before, dark-colored and dried. When I tasted it, it had a fruity flavor and was quite delicious. However, later that night, around 2 a.m., I woke up feeling strange. I had a severe headache and an upset stomach. I rushed to the bathroom, realizing that neither Maya nor Steve seemed affected. I pondered what else I had eaten and remembered the special food from Steve. I hadn't asked about the specific benefits or details of the special food Steve gave me, but I suspected it might be the cause of my discomfort. Despite feeling uneasy, I managed to fall back asleep. The next morning, I found that Steve had already left the house. There was a note on the table that read, "Thanks for the lunch. If there are any problems, contact me. See you soon." I debated whether to tell him that the food wasn't quite right for me. It seemed impolite not to mention it, but I didn't want to disturb him at work. I decided to send him a text later. Soon after, Maya woke up. At breakfast, she excitedly talked about her upcoming sleepover at Naomi's house. After we got ready, we both left the house. Will we see Dad until Friday? Maya asked. Probably not, I replied. He might come home after you're asleep and leave before you wake up. If you want to talk to him about something, maybe you could write him a letter. Maybe I will, Maya said as we went our separate ways to school and work. When I arrived at the office and started preparing for the day, I received a message from Steve. Remember to eat it daily. Consistency is key. I replied, asking about the effects of the food. Steve's response came later in the evening. It's packed with nutrients. Don't worry, it's not harmful. Maybe my frail body overreacted. Though he assured me it was safe, the memory of last night's symptoms made me uneasy about eating it again. Even though it seemed wasteful, I decided not to eat the food Steve had given me. Instead, I resolved to find supplements and healthy foods that suited me better. This morning, on a whim, I used the special food to prepare Steve's lunch. I hoped it would help him stay healthy during his busy days and also avoid wasting the ingredients. Days passed, and there was no change in Steve's condition. He continued his work as usual, which relieved me. It seemed I was the only one who had a reaction. Finally, Saturday arrived. Maya left for her sleepover at Naomi's, picked up by Naomi's mom. Steve went out early for a golf day at a distant resort. I spent a relaxing day shopping, dining out, and unwinding. Every now and then, I received emails from Naomi's mom with updates on Mia. The photos showed Mia and Naomi happily making sweets together. Then came Sunday. I received a message from Steve saying he'd be coming back after watching a new movie with Mia. While I felt a twinge of guilt, I was grateful for Steve's thoughtfulness. They returned home before it got dark, but Maya's usual smile was absent. She seemed subdued, possibly sad to say goodbye to Naomi. Steve remarked, "I think she was having a hard time parting with Naomi." Listening to him, I was reminded of my own childhood. Saying goodbye to friends after special times was always tough. Maya must have really enjoyed her time with Naomi. "How about we invite Naomi over next time?" I suggested to Mia, hoping to lift her spirits and give Naomi's mom a chance to spend more time with her. Maya gave an awkward smile and nodded. As I started preparing dinner with Maya's help, Steve mentioned he was going to take a shower and left the living room. The moment he was out of sight, Maya gently tugged on my sleeve. Just as I was about to ask her what was wrong, a loud crash came from the bathroom. I rushed over and the sight that met me made me scream. Steve was lying on the floor, unmoving. I grabbed my cell phone, trying to steady my trembling hands. With Mia by my side, I attempted to reassure her. "Everything will be okay," I said, but she interrupted with, "Mom, you don't need to call an ambulance." I was shocked by her words and asked, "Why not?" "Because Dad did something bad and he's being punished," she replied. I struggled to understand her meaning, but my priority was to help Steve. I told Mia we'd talk later and immediately call for an ambulance. Thankfully, the quick response meant Steve's life was not in danger, though he had not regained consciousness. Once it was decided that Steve would need to be hospitalized, I made plans to head to the hospital. I thanked everyone who had helped and then left the hospital with Mia. Once we were home, I finally had a chance to ask her about her earlier comments. "Maya, can you explain what you meant earlier?" I asked. She nodded and began, "Naomi told me something during our sleepover." Maya continued, explaining that recently, around bedtime, Naomi had noticed Steve walking in front of their house. Maya seemed puzzled and said, "But isn't that around 9 p.m.? I thought Dad worked a bit later, so it must have been someone else." Naomi had insisted it was definitely Steve. They decided to keep an eye out that night. When bedtime came, Naomi left the room to use the bathroom, and Maya saw someone passing by their house. To her shock, it was indeed Steve, holding hands with an unfamiliar woman and walking together affectionately. Seeing her dad with someone who wasn't me was a huge shock for Mia. She went to sleep without telling Naomi, pretending she hadn't seen anything. The next day, when Steve came to pick up Mia, she couldn't muster a smile, still preoccupied by the previous night's events. Later, when Steve took her to a movie, he mentioned, "Oops, I accidentally bought a ticket for Mom too." Maya forced a smile, trying to ignore his comment. Throughout the movie, Steve seemed distant, giving only half-hearted replies to Mia's attempts to engage him. She overheard him whispering to the strange woman, "Hey, my daughter is right next to us." The woman replied, "It's fine. Eventually she'll be my daughter too. Aren't you happy, Mia? I'm prettier than your mom." Maya was taken aback by the unexpected comment. Steve seemed to signal the woman to stop but continued to enjoy the movie with her. Maya realized that Steve's excuse about mistakenly buying a ticket for me was a lie. It was impossible to pretend everything was fine. Avoiding Steve's gaze, Maya finished her story, and my expression shifted dramatically. I couldn't believe Steve was doing this behind my back. His behavior had seemed normal, and though Maya's story was hard to believe, I knew she wasn't one to lie. In the midst of the confusion, I heard a notification from Steve's phone, which I had accidentally brought with me in the ambulance. Checking the phone, I saw several messages, but one stood out. It detailed how much fun the movie was and how their plan to drive me out was progressing smoothly. My heart sank as I realized Maya's story was true. Steve appeared to be plotting to force me out of our home. Reflecting on Steve's recent behavior, I realized there had been no clear signs that his plan was already in motion. It seemed he had yet to put his scheme into action. Just then, I received a call from the hospital with an update on Steve's condition. Rushing back to the hospital, the doctor explained, "We believe an excessive intake of a particular food caused Steve's symptoms." While he is generally healthy, consuming too much of this substance led to these headaches, stomach issues, and dizziness. Do you know anything about this? Understanding dawned on me. It seemed that Steve and the woman had been deliberately trying to harm my health by giving me harmful ingredients in large amounts. Their frequent late nights and claims of working overtime were likely lies to cover up their meetings. My anger grew as I pieced together Steve's malicious actions. A nurse soon informed me that Steve had regained consciousness and was now able to talk. With my emotions steadied, I prepared to confront the truth. I decided to visit Steve's hospital room. Thankfully, my parents' home was only a 20-minute drive from the hospital, so I left Mia with my mother, saying, "Mommy needs to have an important talk with Daddy. Stay with Grandma while we talk, okay?" Maya, though silent, seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. Her young face betrayed a mix of concern and maturity, which only deepened my feelings of guilt for involving her in this mess. My anger towards Steve for his betrayal, especially in front of our daughter, was overwhelming. Standing outside Steve's hospital room, I tried to steady my nerves. Just before knocking, I overheard voices through the door and saw an unfamiliar woman through the window. Curiosity got the better of me, and I cracked the door open slightly to listen. "Even after you collapse, your wife hasn't shown up. How cold-hearted can she be?" One voice sneered. "You should just get a divorce," the woman responded. "She's still around, isn't she? Stubborn." The conversation confirmed my worst fears. This woman was clearly involved in Steve's scheme. Unable to contain my anger, I knocked loudly and swung the door open. Steve and the woman turned to look at me, startled. "Did I interrupt something?" I asked, my voice cold. Their faces went pale. The woman, who had been seated, quickly stood up, attempting to hide her shock. "Oh, you're his wife, right? I'm just a colleague from his office. I'll be on my way now," she said, trying to leave. I wasn't about to let her go that easily. I blocked her path. "Since you've taken the time to visit, why don't you stay a while?" I said with a forced smile. Her uncertainty was palpable. "Yeah, why not stay a bit longer?" I pressed, the tension in the room thickening. Steve tried to play it cool but failed to hide his discomfort. My voice trembled slightly, betraying the intensity of the situation. The woman flinched at the smallest movement from me. I decided not to drag this out and got straight to the point. "You're having an affair with her, aren't you?" Caught off guard, Steve responded quickly. "What are you talking about? That's not true. She's just a coworker." "Really?" I retorted. "So, you're watching movies with just a coworker, bringing our daughter along, and joking about her becoming your future wife?" Neither Steve nor the woman could respond. They looked down in shame. I pressed on. "And that food I got from you, I tried it, even though I suspected it might not be right for me. I ended up using it in your lunch." Steve's calm demeanor shattered. He shouted, "Why would you do that? Is that why I passed out?" "Really? I had no idea it was that dangerous," I replied. "You said it was good and healthy. I just wanted to give you a boost." "Well, it looks like your plan to hospitalize me backfired," I said with a smirk. "I bet you didn't expect it to be in your own lunch, did you?" Steve was left speechless, his expression a mix of devastation and disbelief. I turned to the woman and said, "So, you're the one who seduced a married man, aren't you? Don't think you're blameless in this situation. Expect some kind of revenge from me." I glared at her, and she faltered, stepping back. "Why should I?" Steve approached me first. He said he needed comfort. "I'm a victim too," she stammered. "Oh, really?" I responded sharply. "So, you're saying he initiated everything? In that case, can we see your messages with him? If you're truly the victim, there wouldn't be any explicit advances from you, right?" The woman hesitated, clearly realizing her scheme had unraveled. Her tone shifted abruptly. "I'm sorry. I apologize. Please just forgive me this once." "No matter how much you apologize, I can't forgive this," I said, my voice steady. I turned and walked out, leaving the two of them pale and tearful. I returned to my parents' house, where Maya was waiting. "Welcome back. Maya's been such a good girl. Thank you for taking care of her on such short notice," my mother said warmly. I took a deep breath and explained, "I'm planning on divorcing Steve. Is it alright if we stay here for a while?" My mother's initial shock quickly turned into support as I recounted the whole story. "That's what happened then. Stay here. I'll help you get your things." "Don't worry," she said firmly, offering both me and Maya her unwavering support. Her kindness touched me deeply, and tears welled up in my eyes. I carefully explained the situation to Mia. Daddy was close with someone else besides Mommy, and I don't like him anymore. I'd rather stay here with Grandma. Despite her young age, Maya seemed to grasp the seriousness of Steve's actions. Thank you, Mia. From now on, I'll protect your smile for both of us, I promised her. Later, when my father returned from work, we went to the house we had shared with Steve. We quickly packed up our things and left. After the dramatic events, Steve was discharged from the hospital. When he came home, my father and I went to discuss matters with him. As soon as Steve saw me, he immediately apologized. I'm truly sorry. I've realized that Katie and Maya are my treasures. I'll completely cut ties with that woman. Please forgive me. Despite his belated remorse, my heart had hardened. I can't imagine getting back with someone who planned to betray me. Please sign the affidavit of the defendant from the court, I said, my irritation evident. My father, standing behind me, added, Listen, Steve, I can't let my precious daughter live with someone like you. If you care about Katie and Maya's future, you need to finalize the divorce quickly. Faced with my father's stern words, Steve agreed, tears streaming down his face. I'll be seeking property division and compensation from you and that woman, so be prepared. This isn't over, I said coldly before leaving with my father. In the following days, I received a substantial amount of money from Steve and the woman for child support and living expenses. News of their affairs spread quickly through their company, severely damaging their reputations. Overwhelmed by the negative publicity, the woman resigned and soon found herself burdened with debt from her payments to me. Steve's prospects for promotion disappeared, and his reputation plummeted. He was increasingly shunned by everyone. Meanwhile, I transitioned from part-time to full-time work, dedicating myself even more to my job. My hard work was recognized, leading to an increase in my salary and a more fulfilling life. Maya's happiness became my top priority, and I am committed to supporting her so that we can enjoy each day together.